Hi everyone, and welcome to this fireside chat as part of the series Giant Health with key opinion leaders across the world, talking about their role during the pandemic and also their vision on the future of healthcare. It's a great pleasure to introduce our guest today, who is Giles Platofrd, who is the president of Takeda for Europe and Canada. He spent 20 years working in the industry with Takeda, and the last 6 years he's been on the executive team. So it's a pleasure to see you today, Giles. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Shafi, for the introduction and again for the opportunity to be part of this discussion today. I mean, let me start by saying that as a global pharmaceutical leader, Takeda is doing all we can to protect the health of our employees, their families, and our communities while ensuring our medicines continue to reach the patients that rely on them. It has been a very challenging 2020. COVID-19 continues to have a major impact on the pharmaceutical industry, as on all sectors and aspects of society. And we continue to adjust our operations to manage through the multiple challenges. We're experiencing a heavy strain on the global supply chain due to unprecedented demand for medications to treat and manage COVID-19, as well as for other chronic diseases such as asthma and diabetes. And this has also triggered, panic buying and stockpiling practices. And as a response, the industry has focused on securing product supply continuity for patients through resilient supply planning and management. And companies are constantly monitoring global and market-specific demands for their products and take all inventory decisions carefully, because supply disruptions, as you well know, can affect patients globally. From an R&D perspective, more than 1,000 clinical trials have been disrupted on a global level, meaning potential delayed approvals for non-COVID related pharmaceutical products. And at the same time, the pandemic has seen an unprecedented reorientation and investment in clinical trials research towards COVID-19. And I'd like to highlight here the flexibility of regulatory agencies in close collaboration with the industry, which has been absolutely pivotal. And there has been a concerted effort to increase the efficiency of regulatory processes for the rapid development, approval, and global rollout of safe and efficacious vaccines and medicines against COVID-19. We've also seen a shift towards telemedicine with less face-to-face patient-physician interactions. And we're just starting to understand the consequences of this shift, including how lower rates and later stages of diagnosis of common chronic conditions, but also cancers and rare diseases, will impact the overall health of the population. And to mitigate some of these challenges, Takeda, along with other industry players, have established home care services and home delivery and home infusion support, as well as remote therapy initiation and psychological services to ensure we don't have delays in diagnosis or disruption to continuity of patient treatment and care. And further, I would just add, obviously, that health budgets are constrained with the economic challenges that many EU member states are facing. It's placed health systems under immense pressure. And so all over the world, health systems have needed to cover the unexpected surge in demand for hospital care with inconsistent relative increases in spending power, and leading to concerns that patients with chronic diseases, including rare and orphan diseases, have been sidelined as a result, as there is a call for relatively more investment in disease areas and treatments and vaccines, that are seen to have potentially higher societal impact. So we continue to work and partner with regulator, patients associations, healthcare providers to ensure that there are no patients left behind during and in the aftermath of the pandemic, with a focus on those with rare and life-threatening conditions.
Your insights and also giving a really erudite overview of the challenges that you face and how you potentially overcoming them. Like you mentioned vaccines, of course, we're seeing the excitement around these vaccines that might come into effect for the COVID pandemic in the new year. We hear a lot of things about the new ways of working in the industry, triggered by the pandemic, essentially. Can you just elaborate more on this for us, Sir Giles?
Yeah, sure, Shafi. I mean, indeed, COVID-19 has provided the opportunity for the pharmaceutical industry to be an active part of the solution in the battle against this virus. It's been really inspiring to see the industry come together and pool resources, data, and technology to accelerate efforts towards a vaccine and potential treatments for the virus. Takeda is involved in a number of research partnerships, industry alliances, and consortia. A couple of examples include helping to establish the COVID R&D alliance of around 20 biopharma and biotech companies and venture capital firms who are collaborating to rapidly advance COVID-19 therapies and vaccines. And the group is organized around 7 working groups, each led by a different R&D leader: clinical phase repurposing, preventative vaccines, novel antibodies, novel small molecule antivirals, preclinical repurposing, data sharing, which is actually led by Takeda, and clinical trial acceleration. Additionally, Takeda is a member of the Accelerating COVID-19 Therapeutic Interventions and Vaccines Partnership, or it's called ACTIVE, coordinated by the National Institutes of Health and the Foundation for the NIH. This public-private partnership brings together more than a dozen biopharmaceutical companies and international government agencies to develop a collaborative framework to prioritize vaccine and drug candidates, streamline clinical trials, coordinate regulatory processes, and leverage assets among all the partners to rapidly respond to COVID-19. We've also co-founded Covid19 Alliance for the development of plasma-derived hyperimmune globulin, or HIG. The spirit of collaboration has gone a long way to advance science, which has reinforced trust in industry from stakeholders. And I hope that with this positive trend, industry will be seen as a true and valued partner to health systems around the world, not just during the pandemic, but post-pandemic as well.
One of the key words you mentioned there is collaboration. We've seen how industry now and healthcare is coming together like never before to really accelerate change and to bring new ideas to market. So I'm really glad that Takeda is very much part and parcel of that forefront of change for us. So thank you for the work you do, of course. You mentioned Takeda's involvement in the Covid-19 Alliance. As I understand, this collaboration is unique in the plasma industry. Can you elaborate more on this for us, Giles?
Yeah, sure, Shafi. I mean, of course, together with CSL Behring in early April, around about that time frame, we formed the Covid-19 Plasma Alliance, as we realized we could potentially save more lives and do so faster if we could bring together others within the plasma industry. And we've seen this in other areas of the pharmaceutical industry as well, this really strong sense of unity and collaboration. And this is a unique partnership of leading global and regional manufacturers of plasma-derived therapies who have deep experience in discovering, developing, and producing these vital, life-saving and life-sustaining treatments. The scope of the Alliance activities include combining our collection of antibody-rich plasma from COVID-19 survivors, the clinical development of hyperimmune globulin through a single clinical study to be done in conjunction with NIAID, a potential commercial manufacture of Covid-19 if proven safe and efficacious, and of course regulatory submission and broad distribution. And I'm pleased to confirm that patients are now being enrolled in the NIAID-NIH Phase 3 clinical trial evaluating the safety, tolerability, and efficacy of hyperimmune globulin HIG to treat adult hospitalized patients at the onset of clinical progression of COVID-19. I think this global multi-center, double-blind, placebo-controlled randomized trial will enroll 500 adult patients at up to 58 sites in the US, Mexico, and 16 other countries on 5 continents, including the UK, utilizing the NIH's Global Insight network. So it's a significant undertaking, and an important alliance principle should be this investigational medicine, if it were successful, is equitable in terms of access and wide distribution. There's no mechanism for profit. So frankly, it's extraordinary just how much we've managed to achieve in such a comparatively short time frame by pulling together leading players in the plasma industry, pooling resources, knowledge, expertise, technology, and capacity to be able to do this in record time. So I'm very proud of this alliance.
And I think it's amazing. I mean, the fact that you mentioned the fact that profits weren't a huge problem here. You want to do the right thing for the world as a whole. You're collaborating. And what you do, you're showing how you can bring partners together and also scale very quickly and at pace, which is essential during the pandemic. So we, as a mere clinician here, I'm just so impressed by the way the industry has got together to fight one of the biggest challenges of our lifetime. So thank you for that. So what other lessons can be learned from the industry as regard to these collaborations that you created, Giles? I'd like to know a bit further on that.
Well, I think as we've spoken about, Shafi, I mean, COVID-19 has acted as a catalyst for innovation and collaboration between, pharmaceutical companies, with the public sector, academia, the medical community, so I do hope that we'll continue to see that trend of strong collaboration and the industry being seen as a valued partner to the healthcare community continue well beyond the pandemic, and we leverage those learnings. I mean, such partnerships must have a solid framework based on transparency, collaboration, and standardization, as well as clear goals, a common purpose, so that they can happen as fast and as effectively as possible. Transparency speaks to the need for data sharing related to clinical trial programs. Given we're all working to find a treatment option with the same goal, sharing our data rapidly should speed up collective development efforts. Collaboration is necessary as we do need the support of regulatory agencies to facilitate testing and approval of vaccines and treatments. And Takeda and others are focused on providing our treatments as quickly as possible to as many patients as possible globally. To bring this to reality, we need alignment among governments and international organizations. I think the industry has approached this crisis focusing on research, data, and information sharing, and adapting where possible existing resources. I believe the acceleration of innovative ways of working combined with the industry's digital transformation provides a unique opportunity well beyond the Covid-19 pandemic to collect real-world evidence and substantiate the value of our products and the value that they bring to patients and society. And I really feel this trend of collaboration and partnership within the industry, and of course between the industry and the healthcare community, and including the public sector, is going to be critical for that trend to continue.
So one of the things obviously crucial to this is around data. You mentioned it briefly in your last statement. So and that's a question that I have in terms of healthcare and how we share data appropriately at the right time. Sometimes we don't have the right conversations with the key stakeholders. So I'd like to get your views on this as a CEO of a major pharma company around data sharing. And how do you see the future of the health data infrastructure way beyond COVID-19?
Well, yes, I'm Shafi. The unprecedented challenges brought by COVID-19 pandemic has undoubtedly led to the acceleration of industry's digital transformation, especially in using digital technologies to further innovation, but also in transforming patient care and healthcare delivery. As a next step, integrating data sets is integral to designing the health data infrastructure of the future to deliver a more value-based healthcare model. And I'd like to mention, if you don't mind, the recently launched Health Outcomes Observatories Initiative, or H2O Initiative as it's called, as an example. This is a project that Takeda co-leads along with the University of Vienna. H2O has brought together 23, I think, world-leading institutions, including university hospitals, patient groups, public sector, and the pharma industry. And it's the first endeavor ever to collect and incorporate patient outcomes into healthcare decision-making, both at an individual and population level across multiple jurisdictions in Europe. So it's about putting data into the hands of patients and patient data at the heart of healthcare decision-making. So for healthcare systems to be sustainable in the future, it'll be critical to focus resources on what happens and what matters most and what creates true value for patients and societies. While value assessments have made their way into the armory of decision makers, there are still many gaps before the healthcare systems across Europe, particularly, can be truly considered value-based. Report after report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and other independent organizations stress the huge amount of waste in healthcare, often linked to silo budgeting or lack of transparency around outcomes across the continuum of care. And so this H2O project is a novel approach to empowering patients to improve their outcomes, and the public-private consortium brings together scientists, clinicians, professionals, and patients who will design and set up independent patient-centered observatories. And with input from patients, providers, and healthcare decision makers, these observatories will collect data and provide information not only for individual clinical care, but also for evaluation of new technologies and for healthcare decision-making. And each observatory will in fact be an independent, not-for-profit entity whose mission will be to safeguard patients' health data, ensuring the highest level of integrity and data security while creating transparency of patient outcomes. The project will set up observatories initially in 4 countries, and will set up each national observatory as an independent entity within 2 years. And the first patients will benefit from the information soon after. And we'll ensure these observatories become integrated into the relevant national health system. As a program, H2O, as it's called, is being established so that it's capable of scaling up to more countries and more diseases in the future. And we'll create a European umbrella observatory to oversee and coordinate this. And the focus initially is on 3 disease areas: diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, and oncology. And the primary aim of this initiative is to provide patients and their healthcare professionals with patient-centered information for use in clinical care. And secondary to this, the aim of H2O is to make the information available in order that patient-reported data is at the heart of broader healthcare decision-making. So I think it's truly exciting to be involved in a transformative healthcare project like this. And, in short, we see this as the future of health data infrastructure, particularly in Europe, where this project is focused, and we hope to be able to replicate these initiatives across disease areas and different geographies, and potentially even scaling beyond Europe in the future. But a very exciting initiative, and a glimpse of the future of health data infrastructure.
I can share your excitement and passion there, Giles. It comes across, and it's so powerful. So I'm really excited by that. And of course, as a colorectal surgeon who deals with cancer and inflammatory bowel disease, I look forward to seeing what comes out of your HDO project. How indeed fascinating. You mentioned all the right words, of course, the value-based, the patient-centric design of healthcare, empowering patients, and having transparency of data, which I think is really great that you're talking about those ideas in the context of healthcare and your industry. So going on from that, I'd like to ask you why it's so important to increase access to this type of patient data. And how does it impact on the wider areas in which your company Takeda works?
Great question. I mean, increasing access to patient data is critical for improving quality and sustainability of care across therapy areas. This is important because patient-reported information in healthcare will enrich the interaction between patient and their physicians, and will, as a result, drive better outcomes for patients. It also provides health authorities, providers, and payers access to better and more transparent evidence of patient measures and outcomes on which to base decisions, and does so, of course, as illustrated in that previous initiative, right across the care continuum. And so that longitudinal data is really, really important. And researchers and pharma companies gain insights that can be used to support the design and direction of the development of new treatments as well. So across a number of different areas, this transparency on patient data and outcomes is so important, Shafi.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm really glad that you're heading this kind of initiative and going forward with it. And we look forward to seeing what comes out of it essentially as well, to learn from what Takeda's been doing and how others can learn from your examples. I guess the next question is really around one of Takeda's main interests, which is rare diseases. And given the fact that is your focus, what are you doing outside of your COVID-19 response to ensure the needs of those kind of patients with rare disorders are not sidelined during these challenging times? We've seen the interest in cancer, mainly our hospitals. We've seen a slight change in the way we work to remote working, and some patients do feel disenfranchised by not being seen at the right time. So I'd love to get your views on how you're managing those patients.
We recognise that COVID-19 has brought immense challenges for our society and healthcare systems, and of course it's impacting all areas of society. But and of course our primary goal or priority, if you like, at this point in time, as with many other companies in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries, is around developing a potential vaccine, and or treatment for COVID-19. But we're also keeping our focus and commitment to discover and provide treatments for other underserved patient populations. And of course, Takeda is a leader in rare and orphan diseases globally, and large part of our pipeline of innovative medicines is also catering to address high unmet needs in these underserved rare and orphan patient populations. And so, therefore, we continue working with multiple stakeholders to create solutions to further improve the rare disease ecosystem, from diagnosis to access right across Europe. And this is why we developed, together with Eurotas and Microsoft, for example, a global cross-sector approach to overcoming the barriers to diagnosis for children with rare disease. For a child with a rare disease, an accurate and timely diagnosis can be the key to a longer, healthier life. And these days it can take up to 5 to 8 years for a patient with a rare disease to get diagnosed. So that's why we brought together a multidisciplinary group of experts with the creativity, technological expertise and commitment required to make a difference in the lives of millions of children and their families. 1 in 17 people in the world will be affected with a rare disease, and 95% of rare diseases don't yet have an approved treatment. So a lot of work to be done, to improve diagnosis, and this is where these kind of collaborations can be very, very important. Another initiative I'd like to mention is the Real World Evidence for Decisions partnership that we are exploring, where we're exploring how real world evidence can support payer and HTA decisions about highly innovative technologies in Europe. The vision of this group is that stakeholders agree what real world data can be collected for highly innovative technologies, when, by whom, and how, in order to generate real world evidence that informs decisions by healthcare systems, clinicians, and patients. And it is quite normal, that when an innovative medicine for treatment of an orphan or rare disease gets regulatory approval, that it may get that on a relatively more immature data set. And so there's work still to be done to build out that data in a real world setting to enable appropriate valuation and reimbursement and access for that drug. So it's really important that we reinforce the need to leverage real world evidence to enable earlier sustainable access to innovative medicine for orphan and rare patients. And we believe this approach that is based on evidence and that provides predictability while securing access for patients to solutions that will truly benefit their lives. This is going to be a win for all involved. Therefore, it's vital that we work together to improve access to existing medicines, sustain investments in development of new treatments for rare diseases.
What incredible insights we've had over the last 20, 30 minutes or so, and I've learned an awful lot about your strategy, your direction, and what you're bringing to the table almost in terms of managing both patients with different disease processes and those rare diseases as well. So thank you so much for sharing those unique insights from that perspective. I guess the last one really is for our audience is really to share perhaps a closing message, something you might feel really important for our audience to hear from your perspective as president of a very large pharmaceutical company who's been really at the forefront of change, the forefront of this management during the COVID pandemic. What are your last thoughts, Giles?
Once again, it's been a great privilege to be here speaking with yourself. And when I joined the pharmaceutical industry 20 years ago, the motivation for me was to be able to make a difference in the lives of others. And frankly speaking, for the past 9 months, I have seen the industry step up to this challenge in an unprecedented way. And I'm immensely proud of being part of this community and the collaboration that's been shown and the trust that's been built over this period. These times are not easy for anyone. We've got a long way to go, but I'm truly humbled by the way my colleagues continue to be engaged and determined to respond with urgency to find a vaccine and treatment for the COVID-19 virus. It's important for us to leverage the learnings on how we have been collaborating to keep the digital acceleration momentum that we've seen during the course of this year, as we continue to focus on doing the right thing for patients and public health during and beyond COVID-19. I think as healthcare leaders, it's a privilege to be able to bring the right voice and capabilities together to create rapid impact and contribute to the greater good. And it's a really pleasure for me to be able to share these thoughts with you today, Shafi. Once again, my thanks for the invitation, and I hope you found the discussion also to be insightful.
Amazing, really truly remarkable conversation I had with you. I'd like to, on behalf of the audience at Giant and myself personally, thank you and your Takeda team for really helping us navigate through these difficult times. Obviously it's been challenging for all of us, but now that we've seen this kind of collaboration, your ideas where you've accelerated change for us, you're helping doctors like them in the front line have an easier time going forward. Hopefully we'll see the back of the pandemic fairly soon with all your innovations and hopefully your therapies going forward. So thank you so much, Giles, for joining us, take out some of your precious time to join us at Giant. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Very happy to be here, Shafi. Thank you.